come from the other side of the camp, the dark side of this camp, because this leads to a dark route. And when I was a teenager, I made a pact with Satan. Shortly after that, I tried to myself 3 different times. It got very dark, very demonic very quickly. That's what happens when you mess with Satan. I got involved in Satanism itself with another roommate of mine that turned me on to Anton LaVey, the Satanic Bible. Had another coworker that turned me on to New Age, and that's just basically, if you're not familiar with that, it's basically you get to be God, you get to decide between right and wrong, including on eternal matters. You're encouraged to get into a altered state of consciousness because you're going to commune. Your source of truth, of course, is not the Bible. Your source of truth is these beings, these light beings that are supposed to give you this incredible knowledge and stuff of that nature. And basically the word is called channeling. It's demonic. It's what God forbids in Deuteronomy 18, being a medium for spirits, demons to speak through you. Guess who, as a non-Christian, guess who would pop up every once in a while? Supposed space brothers, aliens.
Really?
Right? And they'd say, oh, we're orbiting the planet, or we're from the star system, the Pleiades, or whatever. They say they're all liars. But then they would say, and we're here to contact you, and you could become a star child, and you could disseminate this truth that mankind needs, because the earth is getting ready to go through some hard times, and we're here as your saviors to help you, and blah, blah, blah. But after that, I began to read the Bible and go I learned about this thing called the rapture. I never heard anything about the rapture, so I began to learn about just the basics of Bible prophecy, and that at one point, Jesus Christ is going to come and snatch away the word harpazo, which literally means to abduct. He's going to come and abduct his church prior to the 7-year tribulation. And all of a sudden, a light bulb goes off in my head. I'm going, wait a second. I was still a brand new Christian. I'm going, wait, that's what the aliens, the space brothers, were trying to explain away. The position that they're desperately trying to explain away?
What?
It ain't post-trib. It ain't mid-trib. It's not pre-wrath. It's pre-trib. Right? They're trying to explain that away. That for some reason, before the earth goes into a time of great calamity, you're going to see the disappearance of millions of people across the world. But don't worry. Don't even think about the rapture. It was the aliens. What they're doing is they're deceiving the planet for 2 things. Number 1, they're going to become the perfect excuse to explain away the rapture of the church. Number 2, they're going to deceive people who are left behind thinking it's a great thing. Yeah. That you're a chosen one. A great utopia can now be unleashed when these troublemakers have disappeared. And we're here to help build this new utopia. It's all a lie.
You believe when the rapture happens, you believe pretty much concurrent with that, there's going to be a revelation of aliens.
Absolutely, because this is what they're saying. I got insider information, Pastor Jimmy. And again, we demonstrate this. Part of the New Age and the occult, this is what they teach. They literally teach that they can't pull off their utopia until those who are messing up the harmony of the earth, you know what the Bible calls that? Restraining influence.
That's exactly
the church, right?
Exactly
and that's their words. And then when we disappear, they appear. And then they supposedly are going to help mankind usher in utopia. Well, no, the Bible says that's the Antichrist kingdom, the 7-year tribulation, and you don't want to be around for that. But this is from their own camp. In fact, I'll just give you a couple of easy quotes. We have a ton of quotes in there from supposed aliens speaking through people's vocal cords, which is demonic possession, of this information. And they say, do not be surprised, not only that the earth is headed for a climatic change, which, by the way, of course, they don't say, oh, that's God's wrath coming to the planet. Yeah. They say it's Mother Earth coming to cleanse herself, right? And see, they always have their excuse to get you away from the truth. Yeah. But they says, but just before that, and again, it's the pre-trib position they're always trying to explain away. Just before that, don't be, and this is a direct quote, don't be surprised when you see perhaps 20 million people leave the planet in one afternoon. Other people go even further. These channel messages from the space aliens you would literally say that there's they call it the great evacuation, right? And they even pepper it with biblical terms to fool people. In the blinking of an eye, it's going to happen. Wow. And then they do 2 things. One, they say the first phase, you're going to see people disappear. And then and that's the first lie. And it was the UFOs, the aliens. We beamed them up to our spaceships. The second lie is for those that are left behind. They say, oh, and don't be concerned or alarmed if you're not a participant in this first phase. Your instructions will come later. Or they just flat out say, the reason why you've been left behind is because it's like a badge of honor. You're a chosen one. You've proven that you can go along with this great utopia. Those people that are holding things up, for their benefit, we got them, orbiting the planet, and it kind of like a detention center or re-education camp, and then we'll beam them down later. But don't worry about it. They'll be okay. And so that's what they're doing. But the rapture happens that we're going to meet the Lord in the clouds in the air. What's interesting, if you look at the rapture itself, 1 Thessalonians 4, and it talks about how when the rapture happens that we're going to meet the Lord in the clouds in the air. You can see that, Pastor Jimmy, as you and I are raptured up to meet the Lord in the air, in the clouds, and then continue on. But imagine this. Now let's say it could be, there's a couple of different versions. Some people say it's going to be an instantaneous rapture. So imagine this. I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, but think about this deception that they're doing. Rapture happens instantaneously. We get a resurrected bodies, and let's say it's a visual going into the clouds, right? These critters are so stinking evil, and this is what they're planning on doing, is we go into the clouds, and then once we hit the clouds, you can't see us anymore, right? And as soon as we disappear, they appear from the clouds and descend. They don't know when it's going to happen anymore in you and I, but they're setting it up, just waiting for that moment to have the excuse ready to go. And that's why we called it UFOs, aliens, and the coming mass abduction. Again, the word harpazo means abduction. Right. Now, if you want to be a part of an abduction, that's the one you want to be a part of. Being a born-again Christian, asking Christ to save you and forgive you, you get to go with Christ in that abduction. But I believe that's what the world is going to be told, those that are left behind. It was an alien UFO mass abduction.
Antichrist appears, he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. Then the lawless one will be revealed. Is he an alien?
I think as we demonstrate, okay, what is the identity of these critters? I think it's demonic. I think he's going to work with that demonic delusion that's going to deceive the planet to believe the lie, all right, and including to worship the Antichrist. And I think the Antichrist certainly is Satan's man, is satanic, Revelation 13, him and the false prophet. I believe he's going to be working with that agenda to explain away the rapture, but not only explain away the rapture. Part of the occult that I came out of and New Age, the occult side thinks not only the Antichrist is a great guy, and the Bible's the only book that says no, he's not a great guy. But they admit that they're going to deceive the planet into worshiping that guy, Revelation 13. In fact, the occult says they will not only just suddenly disappear. All right, so then they say after that, then what they're going to do to get people to worship this Antichrist, to follow him, to build the so-called utopia, is they're going to deliberately create mass crisis, polycrisis. Now, polycrisis is a term that just recently came out at the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab. And he says, we're going beyond just crisis. You create a crisis, you can manage the outcome. We're going to have to, what's going to come to the planet is mini crisis all at the same time. But the occult says, imagine this scenario. All of a sudden, you see the disappearance of millions of people across the planet. Right after that, you have a true economic crash. Right after that, you have earthquakes appearing all over the world. Right after that, officially, World War III breaks out in the Middle East. Right after that, you have a nuclear bomb dropped on New York City. And then right after that, then all of a sudden, society shuts down. Martial law. All in a very quick succession. The occult says they're doing it on purpose. They're waiting for the disappearance of people who are holding this Luciferian order up, which they think is a good thing, and then they're going to capitalize on that disappearance, add a ton more polycrisis. At the same time, again, you got the dirty nukes, earthquakes, World War III, all the stuff, the disappearance, and quote, aliens land on the White House lawn. What people do? Yeah. They're not just going to fall for it. They're going to beg for somebody to come along and bring, and here's the word that we were familiar with a couple years ago. Could you bring back normalcy? And this is what we just went through, going to look like chump change. This is a polycrisis scenario that involves the disappearance of people, the rapture, UFOs and aliens deluding people, and the occult says it's all planned, but that's what they're going to do to snooker the planet to follow this guy who will show up on the scene, Mr. Fix-It, and wonder of wonders, guess what he'll fix? He'll fix that World War III in the Middle East. Yeah. Now what's that sound like? Daniel 9:27. That's right. The very event, the peace treaty that starts the 7-year tribulation. It's going to lead into a time of utopia, which is how the 7-year tribulation starts. The white horse rider with with just a bow, no arrows, a utopia peace. But it's short-lived. Right. And then it's all basically hell on earth from then on for the next 7 years.